Welcome to the Solution Seekers podcast, where we uncover the future of bringing people together through the eyes of industry leaders. We love these conversations and hope you will too. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Solution Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Paige Buck. Past guests have included Julie Liu of AvePoint, Shay Sobolski of Adobe, and Mallory Schlossberg of Google. My guests today are Brenna Lenoir and Katie Fairbanks. Brenna is SVP of Marketing and Katie is Director of Product Marketing at CodeSignal. Together, and with some help from their teammates, they were tasked with producing the company's largest event to date. Brenna and Katie, welcome.
Thank you. We're
Really
happy to be here.
Yeah, very excited to have you both here. And so earlier this year, you hosted CodeSignal Beyond 2024. It was your largest event to date, and it was a huge opportunity for you. It had some amazing visual branding and standout experiential components. So before we get started and get into the how and the why and the strategy behind everything that went into it, Brenna, could you just set the scene for folks and describe what CodeSignal Beyond 2024 felt like and looked like?
Yeah, sure. So I'll first share my very favorite quote after the event was like, wow, I didn't know you guys were so big. And we were like, we're not. We just pulled off this amazing event. It was, as you said, by far and away the biggest event that we had ever done. It was in a theater. We had a big LED screen. We hosted numerous sessions throughout, from our CEO Tigran sitting down with Sal Khan, to having Steve Wozniak on a panel, to having our CEO announce that we launched this learning product, which was so new and so exciting. And it went so well. It was such a fantastic day. We had a swag wall out front and a really fun picture booth, a VIP reception upstairs, and it was beyond. It was in the name.
Nice. Katie, what was it like for you all to conceptualize this experience? How did you get to what Brenna just described?
Yeah, so it was a real process. I think our initial inspiration actually came from when Steve Jobs announced the iPhone. We wanted it to feel like an experience where you were that person that was in the room when it happened. And so we started really with, we want this to be on a stage. And from there, we really tried to think through, how can we make this engaging, and how can we make this something that people will remember and want to post about and share about, and really just make it experiential. So we leaned really hard into creating an environment where when you walk in, you know that you are somewhere special. We ended up using a space theme throughout the event that was really cool. It was partially because our little AI mascot in our product, Cosmo, is a space corgi, adorable. But also it ties into this idea of beyond. You're going beyond where you've been before. And so we really leaned hard into the concepts that we wanted to share there and how we could make it feel like you were living that experience as you attended the event.
Wow. And so you just mentioned you felt like you wanted it to be on a stage. You chose a theater with built-in seating. You could have gone in a different direction. You could have chosen a blank space and built out a stage and seating from there. What made you choose a theater specifically?
We made the decision together. It goes back to what Katie said. We really wanted to have that Steve Jobs, like I was in the room when he announced a moment. And Katie and I toured a lot of facilities for this event specifically, but other events leading up to this. And we really liked the location of this event because it was right next to Moscone. It just had that San Francisco tech vibe. And when we were looking at options, it just felt like the importance and the set off fireworks moment of our announcement needed a stage with lighting and all of that. And it just felt really easy to see yourself sitting there watching that. Whereas when we looked at other spaces and we thought, well, you could build it out this way, and we even looked at some renderings of like cool vibes and couches and all of that, it didn't have that monumentous moment of we are introducing something totally new and revolutionary and so cool. So it begged for a stage. And Katie, what was I know you and I spent so much time looking at different things.
Yeah.
What was your experience of making that decision?
Yeah, I remember everybody cautioned us. They were like, "Ooh, this is a big theater to fill. Are you sure you want to do this? This is a lot of space. If you go with a stage, like you just can't work with the space as much as you do with other more open spaces." But really, it came back to we're creating a moment here. We're creating that iPhone moment. And it needs a stage, especially in the tech industry. You know, you associate these big announcements with these stage presentations. We still see it today with OpenAI and what they're doing. And so when we walked on that stage, when we were touring venues, it was like sold. There's no other magic like seeing something unveiled on this stage. We can work so much with, to Brenna's point, with lighting, with audio, with all of the experiences, and really drop people into this moment where they're not going to be distracted and feel like they're in a basketball gym or whatever. It's really a moment where you focus exactly on this big announcement and it feels monumental, as Brenna said.
Yeah. It helps me appreciate that you could see that you had a goal of captivating people, that you would have to achieve that goal for it to work in a theater space, but then some of the work is done for you with the seating, arranged the way that it is, and raked stadium seating. You've got everybody's attention in one direction, and maybe the absence of some of the laziness that can come with the other spaces, right? Now I'm just like lounging in this chair. I'm going to hang out back by this tall table and hang out on my phone the whole time.
Yeah.
You've done your job. The theater is like supporting you and getting everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did the concept of CodeSignal Beyond and you mentioned the space theme, Katie, fit into your overall marketing and brand strategy? I said Katie's name, so I'm calling Katie again.
I was just gonna say, Brenna, do you want to take this one first? No, I don't speak to it though. But so as I mentioned, one of the big things we were announcing was our big learning product. And in this learning product, there's the cute little Cosmo the Space Corgi. And so space was kind of went hand in hand with that. It really helped lend credibility to what we were launching and make you remember what we were launching and the core of the message that we were trying to deliver. We also had a little fun along the way, though, of dropping hints of what was to come. So, for example, we had a photo station where you walked in at the beginning and it was this cool moonscape and you could take pictures. And then afterwards, we dropped our Space Corgi in. So you could take pictures with Cosmo. And so it was this fun thing for attendees to walk in and be like, space. Okay, where are we going with this? And then they see this big unveil and it all makes sense. We went back and forth a lot on, we don't want this to be Space Mountain, but we do want it to be space. And there was a balance we had to strike with being too cartoony versus too literal. And I think we were able to nail it through, thanks to the Kennedy team, tons of different ideations and renderings and ideas and brainstorming. We found really the right balance there. Brenna, what would you add?
I was going to add to what you're saying. I think one of the really interesting things that this product launch moved us into was we were an enterprise B2B brand. We were very much designed to be an enterprise B2B brand with our colors and our graphic designs. And so this is a product that works for the enterprise, but also has a consumer offering. And so we got to really enjoy playing with colors and playing with the space theme and playing with this corgi to really shift people's perception that we're not just an enterprise brand. We do have that offering. We are built for scale, but we also have this really great consumer offering as well.
How do you think about that in terms of your relationship to a corporate brand versus an individual, or an individualized experience?
That was one of the most daunting things of this product line, like even more than the event. Like we knew, especially once we met you all, like we could pull that off. But the question always became, well, what does our website homepage say? And how do we present this in a way that speaks to both audience and has the gravitas of an enterprise brand that's trusted in quality and consistent, but the playfulness and fun of a consumer brand? And it took us a really long time and a lot of deep discussion. We've got a great colleague named Natalie who was very much spearheading that portion of the journey. And I think we found a really great way to land the messaging by leaning deeply into what our mission is and to our brand values. And then we jokingly called it the extension pack. So our graphic devices and our color scheme for the consumer side was an extension of our core brand.
Can you say a little bit more about how your mission and values guide you?
Sure. So our mission, I said this from stage so many times, it almost, could have been a drinking game, but our mission is to discover and develop the skills that shape the future. So discover can be understanding what those skills are. It can be hiring for those skills. Developing those skills is developing a team that has those skills that's going to perform at a company. It can be an individual that wants to acquire new skills for their current job, to make a career change. And so that phrase, which was core to what the business wants to deliver, really is a message that works for all those different audiences. And once we started learning that, like all the pieces kind of fell into place. And it's like, well, you can interpret that in all the right ways, and we can take you on all the right journeys depending on who you are.
Nice. Katie, I'm curious. You can tell I'm not reading this question. It's occurring to me as you were speaking about all of
The
this.
best kind.
You're doing a big, a big web upgrade or relaunch and rollout simultaneous to this event. You have a lot of stakeholders in the room. Like there's just so much happening simultaneously. How do you and your team keep your heads, keep your good
I was gonna say, that's debatable. 0 out of 10 would recommend. Just kidding. It was a lot to take on, and we knew the whole point of this was to launch this new product. So we knew there was going to be a lot to go into it beyond the event as well. And so what we really had to do is give clear role assignments. We took a look beforehand and we divided our team. This is exactly where you're focused on site at the event. You are focused entirely on website. We pulled in some folks from our engineering team just to be on call for website support as well on site. And then, we had just clear designations throughout, and we put together our little war room in the back where folks could stay focused on what they needed to and have access to web and show. We were even crazier in that, like, in hindsight, I'm like, why did we do that? We decided to launch the website while the show was happening because we wanted the news to go out simultaneously. And so we just made sure we had space and designation for everybody to do what they needed to do, and very clear marching orders.
I'm going to brag about Katie for a second because she's not going to. I think, long before the event started, it was such a daunting thing. So to scope out all these areas as one person is almost impossible. So Katie came up with this concept of work streams and captains. And so she kind of described it a little bit, but every area had a captain that was empowered to make decisions that would come back and report to the group. This is what's going on. This is what we're doing. And so she just orchestrated this incredible team across product and the marketing team and our CEO and external contractors and designers and anybody else that we could pull into this, and made them all work together so well. So everybody had this super defined area, but they knew who to lean on. And Katie, I don't know how Katie kept everything straight, but she did across all of these different work streams that were going on. But it's an excellent way to organize when you have to get so many things done so quickly and everybody has to pitch in everywhere.
From the outside, I see a lot, I run a tiny company. You guys are working for a much bigger company, even if you don't think you're that big. It's impressive to me anytime I see that somebody is empowered to do what you just described Katie doing. So I think that's a lot of credit to your company, to your culture, to your leadership, that you were able to do that, because I have been in the staff office of a conference where no one thought to inform anyone that they were going to do a big product rollout. And the engineers, like a dozen of them, are coming in and being like, we need this conference table. Like, for what? Oh, no, there's other business taking place here. Like, how are we even going to roll with these simultaneous things? Like, it was a surprise to everybody. So the fact that you at least could foresee and plan and build all of that out and get everybody like rowing in the same direction, that's pretty impressive.
CodeSignal has a pretty special culture where we're all super empowered, but from Tigran, our CEO, throughout the entire organization, everyone will get their hands dirty. And there's no like, why did you let this go so long? Or why? It's like, nope, we're going to figure out a solution. We're all here together to solve it. The success of the event is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
And I will say too, like it was impressive how the team rallied. It was truly an all hands on deck culture and experience where no matter what your role was, we were getting pings from everyone saying, how can I help? And almost to a point where you're like, this is so thankful, but honestly, you can help by just going away right now sometimes. But it was good. It helped us see when we did have something that popped up, we could schedule people to be, on deck and know who was available to help. So we do have a really awesome culture where nobody is too high up or too busy to pitch in when we have something big going on.
Wow, that is really impressive. Brenna, you had a lineup of bold-faced leaders in tech. You touched on Steve Wozniak and Sal Khan. How did you identify and get the right people in the room?
Yeah, great question. That's actually probably a better Katie question.
All right, I'll let Katie answer.
I'll start off by
You.
saying I'll set Katie up by just saying we knew that we wanted to have this Steve Jobs moment without the brand of Apple and without Tigran being recognized as the Steve Jobs that we all know one day he will. And so the first part of the strategy is we need some big names we need to fill the room. And I think this is a really great thing for anyone that's throwing an event where you're like, we don't have all these things. You put some money behind big names and get them in. But Katie works tirelessly with so many agencies. So I will let her answer that part of the question.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we did well with this event is we were really clear on our goals. We knew we had 3 goals. We needed to fill the room. We needed to fill the room with the right people. And then we needed people to post about it afterwards. We needed it to be shared. And so with those 3 very clear goals in mind, we were able to kind of back into the speakers that made sense for us. We explored a ton of different people, that are our real tech leaders. We knew that we wanted to fill the room with engineers. And so we needed to tap into the brands and the speakers that engineers would care about most. And so that's where Steve Wozniak really came up. And we actually, one of our customers is Reddit. And so we sourced the CTO of Reddit, and we knew we were on the right track when our internal head of engineering was like, these are the 2 people that I nerd out. Like, I cannot wait to meet these people. And so we're like, okay, this is good. And then Sal Khan made a ton of sense for us too, because he's really a pioneer in the industry and where we're headed. So thinking about our audience as engineers and then partially media as well, we knew that was a nice, just group to bring together that would give everyone something to talk about. To the media point, we also invited our panel moderator was somebody from Fortune. And so we invited her to lead that panel, again, to make sure that they would have something that they wanted from this, so that that third goal of going viral would be in better shape after the event. I will say, in talking to a lot of different speaker agencies, a lot of people had warned against some of the speakers that we were looking at hiring, saying, they're great, they're big names, but they're not really great speakers on stage. But we were really clear on our goals from the start, where, you know what, that's great. We want really good speakers on stage, but the most important thing to us is that they're going to bring people to the event. And we know that the people we decided on ended up being great speakers, but also could drive that traffic that we needed. It was a big lever for us to fill the room to get the right people on stage.
Oh, yeah. All right, now this is definitely for Brenna. What was it like for you to be on stage during the event, to feel like you were hosting this thing?
Terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. I was saying, I think Tigran had the hardest job because he had so many cues to hit and he had a live demo to produce and all of that. I think Michael and I had the second hardest job because we didn't get to go on and just be ourselves and answer questions. Like, we had to hit cues and pronounce people's names correctly and set the pace and the energy and all of that. And so every time we walked off stage, I was like, okay, it's almost like check the box in that little segment. It's done.
Check it up and then like shake off the adrenaline.
Shake it off, yeah. And then
that.
at the same time, it was so fun. It was so fun to look into that audience. It was so fun to be on the stage with Michael. I joke with him now, like whenever we do all hands, I'm like, okay, you got to be my co-MC, like we're paired for life. So both terrifying, but also really fun.
What did Michael call it? He called it what? It's a concept that I
Type
haven't
two,
heard before.
type two
Yeah.
fun. So it's not fun while you're
Oh,
doing
yes.
it, it's fun while it's done, like working out or hiking or something. Like you're really glad that you did it when it's over.
Type 2 fun is also, isn't that the sort of fun where you get into like such a focused space that it can almost be meditative? That might not be true on stage.
Maybe. It's not meditative on stage.
Or like dissociating. Then oh
Yeah.
gosh. I'm also really curious. You started touching on, Katie, the 3 things you were really clear on, which full credit to you. We've produced events with a lot less clarity on outcomes than that. Fill the room, fill it with the right people, get them to post about it. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about return on investment. I feel like every event professional is desperate to measure this, and yet every event seems to demand a different metric for success. You had outstanding attendance figures, you had the people you wanted in the room, but besides these 3 things, how were you thinking about how you would measure the success of CodeSignal Beyond?
Thank you. So in this launch was unique in that, as Brenna mentioned, it was more of a B2C product. And so one clear way we could measure the success of the event was the number of people who signed up to use the product. And we were really excited because we saw, of course, an initial spike after the event, but then long-term momentum too. And some of the things that we did well at the event that in hindsight, we're like, oh, we should have done more of that, was by building relationships with influencers that then attended, and then they got live footage from the event that they could post and they could share. And that's something that we could use over the long tail as well. So it was the initial event spike, but something that we could repost and continue using to drive those signups. So within 6 months of the event, we had over 100,000 signups for our new product. So not too shabby. We're pretty pleased with that. Still ways to go on measuring the exact ROI, especially with a new product launch. You play with pricing a little bit and discounts. And so we're still adjusting and figuring all of that out. But signups was a really clear outcome for us. We also looked at the media attention we got, and we got some recognition in key media outlets, which then built our brand credibility, built us up as a player in the B2C space that we were entering. And just, helped us build relationships with folks outside of our traditional B2B domain. So that was really good too. Brenna, what else would you highlight for outcomes from the event?
I like all marketers, it's hard to prove hard ROI of an event. And I think that's because events are essentially a brand moment and a demand gen play. They're never just demand gen. And so if you're looking for immediate results, you may not see what you're looking for. And I think it's a problem with measurement more than it's a problem with an event. So if you do not have multi-touch attribution where you can follow over time what people engage with, did they start with a piece of online content and come to the event and then visit your website and then attend a webinar? If you're just looking at one piece in isolation, it's never going to show you the true picture. So I think you need to look over time, and how long is going to be dependent on your sales cycle. And it's going to be dependent on things like, what is the average amount of touch points that you get? And what is the complexity of those touch points? Do you have an audience that only engages with digital? Do you have an audience that only engages with in-person events? One really interesting thing Katie and I have done quite a few times is, if you look at a closed-won deal, especially a large enterprise deal, and you can map back all the touch points, and if you can do that for a handful of them, sometimes it's very manual, sometimes you have systems that are sophisticated enough, you can start to see patterns in that. And one of the patterns is that there's generally an event, there's generally an in-person event that somebody has attended to along the journey. So I think the way we measure events, that we just do it right after and it's these like attendance and like how many people converted right away, does not allow an event to really prove out its true long-term value.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bren, I'm going to clip what you said, and I'm going to make sure every member of my team listens to this for that moment right there, because I think that's something we all really struggle with. And then, Katie, I'm curious to hear from you as well, like whether you are empowered internally to set up the tools and the systems and get agreement on that success, that both the soft anecdotal piece where you like map back over time versus the hard data? And like, is everybody in agreement and alignment about what that success, how we'll measure that success?
Yeah, I think we're pretty fortunate in that we have a really strong ops team that helps us drive a lot of that process and manage those conversations. So we are very much a data-driven organization, with a lot of resources and tools that we lean on to measure the success. The other thing I was going to say is it's interesting because like one of the most annoying questions, I think, to Brenna's point after an event is, what's the lead list? And it's like, okay, that's important. We need to follow up on everybody that attended. But we often forget about customer relationships too. And we were just looking the other day at our customer data, and the number one driver of customer renewals and expansion engagements was Beyond. And so this is a huge opportunity for you to not only drive new business, but maintain your existing business as well. And so it is important to do that look back and see, who did we engage with and what relationships were we able to build, not just whose badge did we scan and who took a photo at the photo booth.
Yes.
And so we do have a lot of tools and people to help us drive that kind of insight.
I will add one more metric to this: employee morale. I think everyone coming into that room and seeing the giant LED screen and the signage outside and the experience of it, and we had Cosmo cookies and all kinds of great swag, and employees came away just on a high of being together and being in that environment, like, look at this company we work for. And that's never going to make an ROI sheet, but it's such an important moment for team members to just feel the brand and feel connected and feel really proud to have been a part of something.
Oh, yes. You absolutely just jumped right into the question I was going to ask about.
Sorry.
No, it's perfect. Secondary or ancillary benefits of executing an event. And when somebody walks in, it was like, heck yeah, I work for CodeSignal. Check us out.
Yep.
Yeah. We also, I will say, this was kind of a late thing for us, but we had this epiphany. We're like, oh, we can brand the outside of this building. We're essentially getting free billboard advertising in downtown San Francisco. Why would we not take advantage of that? So we really tried to maximize all of our opportunities to make an impact at the event and at the venue, whether it was for attendees or people passing by.
Did you go back and get like traffic data? Like I want to know how many people passed by that sign.
We're data driven, but apparently not that data driven.
Yeah. We draw the line somewhere.
But that touches on something you talked about, Katie. You've got an excellent ops team. You're building tools that are built to measure some of the things you want. Were there tools you had to put in place to track the things you wanted to track? Were you thinking through that with your product and ops teams beforehand?
That's a good question. So we very much so did not want to invest in new tools for an event. We know that event systems can be very expensive, and this is a once a year event. And we didn't want to pay a bunch of money that we would use one time and then maybe dust off a year from now. So we were very dedicated to using tools that we had to run the event. So was it the most efficient process? Maybe not, but it was very cost effective for us. So we leveraged tools like Marketo to drive all of our registration, all of our emails, all of our advertising. We use good old Google Sheets for collaborative tracking, for invites. And we used, the tools at our disposal. We had already set up in advance, luckily, our multi-touch attribution models and all of our tracking from the campaign. So we just had to pull that in from Salesforce. So that was done and set up in advance, but we spent quite a bit of time talking about tools and do we need to invest in tools, and decided, no, let's leverage what we have. And it worked out quite well for us. I know for not necessarily for every event would it have worked, but for us, it was good.
Did Marketo and Salesforce work for you in terms of like mapping back to who posted and who took a photo and those things? Or
that's a good question. So mapping back to who posted and took a photo, no, but we do have a social listening tool for that. Marketo and Salesforce really helped us with the overall registration tracking, the source for the registration, and then seeing through any opportunities that closed from there on out.
yeah. Brenna, was there something you wanted to add to that?
Just agreeing. Yeah, I mean, we had a team of people that figured out how to make that work. And I think if you don't have a strong ops team, we have a super savvy digital marketing person that like did some magic in the reservation system when it was going wonky. So it was not without its challenges, but we did make it work, and we saved a lot of money on more sophisticated tools.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like what you had was already reasonably sophisticated, and you knew, and you had sophisticated folks who could like bend it to their will.
It's a
Yeah.
good.
Some wizards.
Yeah.
That's, I think, often like a much wiser choice than like, let's just bolt on another tool.
Because that's going to come with its own integration challenges.
Yes, yes, yeah. And then you're getting like further away from your core focus and your core tools. Yeah. So what have some of the big takeaways been? What are some of the big surprises? But when you look back, what still excites you about this, Brenna?
I mean, there was a moment when I was like, are we gonna pull this off? Like this is insane. And not just the event, but like we were hosting the influencers and media, and we had this VIP reception, and we were launching the website. And as Katie said, like we were literally waiting for a word Tigran was gonna say on stage to hit go, and was everything gonna render properly? We had some stuff on product hunt, and like it just felt like, what have we done? We have just bitten off way more than we can chew. So I don't, maybe this is a glass half full answer, but like the fact that it happened the way that it did, that it was as flawless as it possibly could have been, that it was received the way it was a surprise. And so the last moment was so nervous for it all, and it just could not have gone better.
Yeah. So if I think about like, I'll do the rose, thorn, bud. So our rose, to Brenna's point, it went off without a hitch, and I really was not sure it was going to happen. There were a lot of things that needed to fall in place, and it went well. And coming back to those 3 goals, being really clear on those goals, we were able to say, check, check, check. We crushed that. So I think that's something that went really well, was being clear on what we needed to accomplish and then driving towards that. Something that I think we could do better next time is we spent a lot of time agonizing over a lot of experiential details, and the experience was very important. If I could go back though, I would have trusted my gut at the beginning, because we ended up going with some experiential elements that we had initially thought of and then overthought and spent way too long of our short time planning period focusing on that. I think my advice to people would be, trust your gut on experiential, focus on the stage, focus on the message you're delivering, and make sure that the experience supports that. And then the bud for next time, I think one of our key takeaways and surprises from this was the power of influencer marketing. So if I were to do this over again, I would definitely engage with influencers, again, with one of our goals being going viral. Engage influencers and give them a special experience, focus on their experience, focus on their ability to spread the word for you, and invest a little bit more time and effort there.
And were you aiming at influencers at all, or was it just an afterthought? Or
I actually think this is one of the beautiful things of the culture and the way that Katie set this up. That idea came from someone that wasn't like spearheading anything. It was like, hey, it was our social media person, Claire, who's amazing, was like, I want to try this experiment. Can I have a small budget to do it? And we were like, I don't know, that's not part of the plan, but sure. And now we're like, we should have given Claire more money.
Yeah, totally.
Nice. Oh, I love that you also, again, that you have this culture where somebody could say like, I want to run an experiment. Let me be part of this. And you can make space for that. And then you have this lovely discovery that comes out of it. Yeah. So besides the trust your gut advice, what would you say to somebody looking to produce a big product launch?
Trust your gut covers so much. I mean, one of the things that trying to find the right, and I know this isn't a commercial for you all, so I won't make it into that, but like finding the right vendors was so incredibly critical, from event producers to designers. We really trusted our gut on who to go with, and we asked the right people. So we found you all because the venue that we went to was like, they do amazing things, you should go work with them. And we had someone else picked out, but we kept going like, I'm not really feeling it, even though we knew them really well. And so trusting our gut and finding vendors where it's like, they get us, they get our budgets, they get what we're after, they know what our goals are, and they're going to help us deliver. From the messaging firms we worked with, to Kennedy, to support that we had on site, like just really going with people that are understanding you and in your gut care and are gonna help you deliver, it was a critical piece of it all.
Yeah. I would say too, one of the things we did well is we were really clear on what we wanted to accomplish. And it was very easy to have scope creep in there where it's like, oh, well, we actually really want to do this thing too. And we had clear alignment. Brenna was really good at driving clear alignment with our CEO, and he fully supported, like, these are the 3 things we're after. And we are in support of these 3 goals and nothing else. If something falls beyond that, we can tackle it later. But we do not need this event to be absolutely everything for everyone. We need to crush these 3 goals that we have. So I think being really clear on what you are there to do and what this event should accomplish is really important too.
Oh, you just really hit the nail on the head for me when you're like, this event is not everything for everyone. So often, again, like bolting things on or scope creep or shiny object syndrome from leadership just makes these events.
What about this audience? And what about this person?
What if I could find you $50,000 for my executive budget to make a dinner happen afterwards? And you're like, thanks, but no thanks.
Yes.
Yes. So good on both of you for like keeping that alignment and like helping people like let go of ideas or put them in a parking lot, whatever you had to do that. Genius.
Yeah. No can be the most important thing you say sometimes.
And it's a full sentence.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, so as we're wrapping up and winding down, is there anything I didn't ask you about your team, your experience, the event that you want to make sure you share?
I don't think so.
All right. And I would love to just wrap by asking you each if there's somebody or something in your business interactions somebody that you admire that you'd like to share with our audience.
I'll just be cheesy and say like our team is my favorite. I am happy to come to work every day with them. And I know whatever challenge comes up, like everybody comes together and we have so many funny isms and little inside jokes. And one of the best things about this is how much we laughed along the way and how many, do you remember when, or like, I don't even know, funny things that just happened during planning that we look back and they're a part of our team culture now. So I admire all of them. And I just love that, great ideas come from everywhere and everyone pitched in and did everything to make it successful. There was no, that's above my pay grade, or I don't know. It's like, okay, I'm going to go figure out how to do this.
Nice.
So I admire the team.
It's pretty admirable.
Beat that, Katie. Sorry. Should
I don't know how I should have gone first. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. It is true though. We have to have some fun and laugh along the way. Events can be really stressful. And if you're not having fun with it, you're not going to survive. You're not doing it right. I will add to that too. We are a small team, a powerhouse team, and we don't have a dedicated events person. So that's why the partnership with Kennedy was so amazing and so important. But we also leaned heavily on former colleagues that do work in events, and so thankful for their support. We have a former colleague who is at Service Titan and pitched in to help us just figure out what's important in the event, gotchas, things to look out for. And that actually helped guide us to the Kennedy team as well. She's like, oh, these people look like they have their stuff together. We had floated a couple contracts past her and things like that. So thankful always for our network too, that can help us plug gaps and fill in expertise where we don't have it.
One of the greatest events people ever, Tenny. We love you.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I've been talking to Brenna Lenoir, SVP of Marketing, and Katie Fairbank, Director of Product Marketing at CodeSignal. Brenna and Katie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It was fun.